Next we have Alex Allen and Dan Stitch talking about White Birch Lake, analyzing water quality and stakeholder concerns. You up?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Alex Allen. I'm a second-year master's student out of SUNY Oneonta in the Lake Management Program. I'm in Dr. Dan Stitch's lab. And I'm going to be talking to you about my master's research on White Birch Lake. Before I kick it off, I just want to talk about our program for a little bit because we are not the typical like fisheries kind of kids going around. We all did come, a lot of us came from fisheries schools, but our master's program is we're working with lake associations to create a state of the lake report and a management plan to help address their concerns. Starting off, I'll give you some background about White Birch Lake. It's a small man-made reservoir. It's about 29 acres. It was built in 1948, where they dropped a dam down on this old area and was able to let it fill in and make a beautiful lake now. It's located in Broome County. It's about 2 miles from the PA border and a mile south of Windsor, New York. The total area of the lake is 29 acres, but it's privately owned, so the compound that includes the lake is about 40, which includes the inlet and outlet, and has 2 sediment catch ponds. The total watershed is 432 acres. It is mostly forested, about 80%, a few hay fields, and it's lightly developed with some houses. Most of the houses are around the lake. There's about 74 people that live on the lake, and those are seasonal and some full-time residents. There is a main road that runs down the west shore of the lake where most of the year-round residents live, and a private road that connects the north end to the south end of the lake that runs on the east shore. Most of the seasonal residents, they're about 70%. A lot of them use it for camps. Some go to the south for the winter, to areas like Florida and Texas, and some people will transport boats up from PA to fish it during the summer. The lake has a rich history in the area. It was founded by Rich and Helen Merritt in 1947 is technically the date. They started investigating in 46, but they showed up to the area and they went down this abandoned road, and they were like very curious. Like, it's on top of a mountain, you're like climbing Mount Everest as you're going up there. The truck is like dropping gears trying to get up this hill, and they found this old abandoned farm that had this kind of stream, swampy farm pond thing. That's my best description of it. And when he found it, he thought it was a huge potential area to make another lake. About 2 miles away, there's a lake called Beaver Lake, which is about the same size, but it's a natural lake. So they dropped a dam on there in 47, and officially the lake filled in within 71 days from the inlet and about 6 springs, and the original size was 30 acres. It was about 6 feet mean depth around the lake, and it had 16 feet at the max depth. Coming into this, we really work with the stakeholders of the Lake Association to find out what they want done. We have what we do with our stuff, but a lot of these stakeholders are extremely concerned about the longevity of their lake. They know it's a reservoir, they know climate change is happening, erosion's happening, bigger storms. This year we just had the giant rains come in August and push a lot of sediment into the lake. So they're very worried because a lot of them are older, they have kids or they have grandkids, and this is a bonding area for them to be able to bring their grandkids up and their kids and enjoy the lake. There's a lot of recreational swimming, boating, kayaking, fishing, and they absolutely just love the lake. It's a nice quiet area. A few years ago, they were extremely concerned about sediment because even though it's forested, they can see the lake changing a little bit of color. They're very worried about the big storms coming in and running sediment in their lake. They're also worried about the current state of the lake. There is a mixed level of education about lake management and just processes in the environment there. So they're very worried about, what does this mean? I see algae, I see this, I see that. I have plants on my dock, I got these lily pads popping up, I got this unknown reed. Help. So we come in there and we get to find out the current state. They're also worried about plants. A lot of people in New York, that's mainly the go-to is plant management in New York. So previous management, about 2018, they dropped in 70 grass carp to try to manage the curly leaf pondweed that was found in 2016 by the DEC. They also documented excessive plants in the middle of the lake and around their docks. They also participated in the Citizen Statewide Lake Assessment Program for 7 years. It's a program that was created by DEC and the New York Federation of Lake Associations. They partnered together to train volunteers to be able to limnologically sample their lakes, to be able to create and maintain long-term data sets for changes so that they're able to understand how they want to progress in the future. So volunteers will come up during the usual annual conference, they'll get trained or updated, then they're able to sample. Most lakes will go from May to September, but it's all volunteers, so it can vary in what times people come back. And they are able to have samples run at a reduced price. So that helps be able to keep a data set but not bankrupt a lot of these lake associations. They also put in sediment catch ponds in 2014, 2015 kind of span. The reason I say 2 years is because they started building one, got it completely done, and then it was delayed on the second one, where they originally had an idea of how deep they wanted to do the second one, but jumped back and wanted to make it deeper just in case. Also during that time, they were very worried about the weak stream bank at the inlet, so they put riprap to strengthen it up. The objectives of my study, I'm going to cover 3 in this presentation. I have 3 others that are included in my thesis. If you are curious about the other 3 that are grayed out, come find me. I love talking about them. I'll talk your ear off. But today I'm going to talk about the seasonal and long-term trends, my pride and joy, the lake mapping, and the plant survey I did. So the limno methods, the whole project was year-long sampling bi-weekly, limnologically, to collect water profiles at the deepest point. That included collecting ion samples and water samples every meter, and then using a YSI to collect the water parameters at around every half meter, depending on where I can get to based on seasonal conditions. And then I got to drag all that information back in and go play in everybody's fun statistical software R, and be able to make linear models, model selections, predictions, and isotests. I also got to map the lake using a fish finder and process all the data to get an accurate map that they've never had, but also calculate the volume of the lake and compare it to the original plans and how deep it was. And I got to do plant sampling, which is a wonderful time when you have grass carp in a lake. Starting off with my results, I looked at temperature, which was a big thing. We wanted to find out when it was mixing. The depth is on the left in meters, starting with the surface to the bottom. Sampling dates are highlighted in black dots with months on the bottom. We found out that right around May to early June was when it started to stratify and thermally stratify through the summer, which it held for the whole summer. And then end of August to beginning of September, it started to mix and was fully mixed by the end of September. Oxygen was a huge thing for us. Same thing, depth on the left, dates on the bottom, but the white area is area that was not able to get samples. The field station didn't let me go out on an inch of ice and sample out in the deep parts. Kind of thankful for that one. But the shocking part with this is we found that the lake loses a ton of oxygen in the deep parts during the summer. And this is a very fished lake for the local residents. So it was a little concerning that the bottom almost meter and a half was going borderline anoxic. So they were very concerned about that. We also looked into ions and found out it's a saltwater lake with very low buffering capacity. We also looked into seeing how productive the lake was. That's a big thing, and we found out it's eutrophic. My favorite part, and my advisor's favorite part, was playing around with historical data. So, like I said, a lot of people will sample from May to September, but of course this is volunteer-based. So a lot of my residents who are seasonal, who did the sampling, came back when it was nice out. So we had a variety of samples through the 7 years of sampling that started in '96 and went off and on to about 2014. So with the limited number of samples in the earlier months, we narrowed it down to 3 months of consistent sampling. So we looked at and saw there was an increase in temperature for the month. And we saw about a 5-degree increase. And we also saw for pH it was increasing, which was a little concerning. We also saw phosphorus increasing, which is very interesting. But the biggest one was Secchi depth for us. We saw that it was decreasing in some months and increasing in others. And the reason we looked at Secchi depth hard is because there was a lot of complaints with the Lake Association that there was algae blooms, green stuff popping up. And when they see green stuff, they all like to swim, boat, pets. So they're very concerned about what is happening in their lake. So we saw a decrease in Secchi depth. It kind of correlates around the same time that the last samples were collected. It was found out by CSLAB that it was having a hard time processing their chlorophyll A samples because of too much. And this is my pride and joy. I spent lots of hours crashing my computer trying to make this. So we found out the mean depth is 4 feet and the deepest point is 14.1 feet. When I showed up there starting out, they told me it's probably about 8 feet deep and it's in the middle, which was a little concerning about how am I going to do my master's if I'm only sampling like 2 samples each time. But through a little cold weather November trip, I got to find that it was, with a hand fish finder, it was 14.1, and I got to map the lake and find out that it's about 38.7 million gallons of water in there. And another cool part with this is one of the original people who knew the person who founded the lake. He actually, when I finished this map, I got to send it over to them, and they made, for his birthday, he got to get a hand cut out of the lake that he got to see be built as a kid. So it was a blessing. We also got to do some plant surveys with the rake toss. We found that there were 6 plant species, 5 native, 1 macroalgae, and 1 unknown. I say unknown because I'm not really good with reeds, and Dan wasn't too happy when I showed up with a trash bag and a reed, not knowing what it is, and dirt included. But the weird part was that we found for a lake is we did not find any curly leaf pondweed, no remnants. We did sample a little bit later, at the end of June was the first little sampling, but most of it was in July. So we understand that curly leaf peaks before the main sampling, but we did not find any, so we thought that was a very interesting fact. There was also, most of the plant life was 20 feet or closer to shore. Everything else in the middle of the lake was barren. So the conclusions about my lake, it's dimictic. It had a strong summer stratification. It lost oxygen during the summer. And the historical limiting factors have shifted, which is a great spot for understanding what could happen down the line. So we're able to talk to them in the future and be that they know that they have to, with the historical data, my data, now they have like a 10-year jump, so then they could sample later with CSLAB and make more informed decisions. We also found that the lake has shrunk over 74 years. It's losing about 0.5% of the original volume per year, and there was no signs of curly pondleaf. And one of the main things we worked with the Lake Association, and this is a big thing in my management plan, I'm going to cover this little piece, is it's just education. They have all this information now, and now we're helping them navigate to resources that they can learn more about this. With that, I'd like to give out some acknowledgments. I'd like to thank the White Birch Lake Association for my funding, being part of it, and allowing me to work on their lakes. It is a private reservoir, and it's their home lake. The New York State Federation of Lakes, they help get our list of lakes each year, people interested. They help run CSLAB. The CSLAB, the volunteers, the coordinators, and everybody. The Oneonta Field Station staff in Cooperstown. Without them, I would not be able to do any of this, and it was a blessing to have their knowledge, their skills, and be able to run samples. The Scream Foundation for my funding, which is huge, And lastly, but not least, I want to thank my advisor for pushing me. And with that, any questions?